I'm going to show you how to get a scene similar to this on your model railroad with an Arduino sketch and a Pro Mini and some inexpensive LEDs. So let's get going with this right now so we can see how to do that. I'm Tom Kovichak, and this is Tom's Trains and Things. This channel was created to help other modelers who are in need of guidance in pursuing their dream of building a model railroad. I have this area right here in a narrow portion of my layout, which was pretty dead, but I've livened it up with some lights and changed around a few things on it to make it look like this. The sketch that I used for this project will be seen in the next episode of Arduino Made Easy, which will be out in a few days. When you're doing a project in Arduino, the Uno or Mega is a good starting point for your project so you could experiment with everything on there to make sure you have it doing what you want it to do. But once you get it going, you're going to want to put it on your layout, and you want to put a smaller version of it. This is kind of bulky to put inside of a building or underneath your layout. I'm going to show you how I do it with a Nano or a Pro Mini, so you could break it down into a smaller version and still use your Uno for other projects to test them out. If you would like to see more videos like this, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. While you're at it, ding that bell so you can be notified whenever I have a new video coming out. And while you're at it, go check out the playlist. I have several playlists on my playlist page that you could go through and see everything about model railroading. Okay, here's the difference in size. Here's your Uno, there's your Nano, and then there's your Pro Mini. I'm going to do my project on a Pro Mini. It's a little bit smaller, and I'll show you why I'm going to do it, because I'm going to mount it on to this circuit board right here. I'm going to put it on this way, and I'm going to have all my outputs on the one side, and I'll use the rest of them for ground. Now I'll solder it on here later on, but what I want to show you now is if you're going to use the Pro Mini, you're going to need an FTDI board. And I showed you them before in another video. I have one here that I bought separately, which was about $15. I bought this right here for almost the same price. I think they were only about $1 difference. I think this was $1 more. And you get the FTDI board, you get the Pro Mini, and you get a few things to play around with that you could snap off. And it's called a Proto Snap Pro Mini. Whatever is out there in the stores is all they're going to get. They don't make them anymore. But you're going to need an FTDI board if you're going to use a Pro Mini. For the FTDI board, this one here that comes by itself, it has the header already soldered on there. What I'm going to do on this one here, and I'm not going to put you through all the torture of watching me solder, but we're going to put a header on here like this, a 90-degree one, so whenever we need to program it, we could just plug in this right here like that, and then plug in our USB cable right there. I'm going to use a breadboard on it just to keep it aligned, and then once we have that on there, I'll solder on this header here, and then what we'll do is we'll put it on our circuit board here. We have all the pins soldered on here right now. We got the header for the FTDI that we could plug in like that, and we got these headers on the bottom here to where we could plug it into our circuit board, and we're going to solder it in the circuit board. I'm going to leave 6 pins on this side and 7 pins on that side. Okay, just to make sure that this thing works after I soldered all the pins on it, we'll plug this thing in, and there we go. Now if we want to, when we want to put our program in there, we could put it in there anytime. Once we have this on here like that, there's many different ways where we can get power from it. We could use this barrel jack here, and I'll show you. This can go on. And anyway, you could put that barrel jack in there. That way, you put your power wires on here and just plug it in and then run these wires over to your board. There's another way of doing it. We have the little terminals. This one is the larger one, and you can see it skips a pin on there. This is a heavy duty one as far as the electronics go. Now this one here, fits to adjacent pins. Now I'm not going to use this one. This one's kind of delicate, and I'm going to use the heavier one on here, the blue one. I have the Pro Mini soldered to the board on here along with my power terminals. Now the next thing I'm going to do on here is solder the resistors on here. I'm going to go from pin 2 all the way up to pin 9. Now there's 0 and 1 on there. I'm not going to use, just going to go right in a row, because in between there is a ground and a reset pin. So we'll just leave those 4 pins at the beginning alone. Leave a little bit on each side, because we're just going to bend them over to begin with. I'm going to make one side longer than the other. And then on these over here, I'm just going to cut them all the way out, because this is the side I'm going to fold over. There we go. Let's get these out of the way here. Got to get my goggles back on. And what I'll do is take the long end and just fold it over like this. And we'll start with pin 2. Let me see where we're at on 2. That's ground. There's pin 2. Now I'm going to move it out 1 and just put it right there. And this is where we're going to start off at. We're going to do these one at a time, but you can see what I'm going to do on here is I'm going to fold this over and then solder it to the pin over here. And we'll just do that with all the resistors going up to there. So that way we'll have a resistor on each one of the pins, and then do the same thing this way. Take one lead off of the LED and solder it onto this end, and then we'll come around with a common ground over here and put all the grounds over here someplace. And if we need any more, we can grab these pins over here. But that's how we're going to do it. We're going to start soldering the resistors on there now. I'm going to walk you through soldering the first resistor on here, and I'll just leave it up to your imagination for the other 7 that I do on here. It'll all be the same. I'm going to get the soldering iron out of sleep. Okay. Get this ready. Put a little bit of solder on there for right now. Put that in there. And put a little bit of flux on these 2 terminals here. It's about time for me to get another one of these applicators. Now press down on the board, and that will hold the resistor in place since I got it standing straight up. Okay. Get a little bit more solder out here. And come over here. Some on there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay this down flat. Like that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th pin. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Fifth pin is number 2, so I'm in the right spot. Okay. So what I'll do, lift this up just a hair on the opposite side. There we go. We'll keep that down there. Put a little bit of flux on that. And we'll be good to go soldering the lead from the resistor over to the pin on the board. Okay. And it's on there good and tight, and so what we'll do is we'll just take the excess of this and just cut that off. Okay, so now we got the resistor on pin number 2. Here's the other side. Okay, now what we'll do, whenever I'll get all the resistors on here, and whenever we're ready to put the LEDs on there, we can go all the way down to this last pin. Let's try that. I'm going to bend this down, and I'm going to pull it through the pin, and then we'll put the wire. We'll see if these holes are big enough for this and the wire from the LED. So you see how I got this going across here, and we'll solder the LED into this pin right here, and then we'll use these over here as ground for all the LEDs. So that's the first one. So that's what we got so far with the resistor on there. All the resistors are going to look the same. I'm going to stand them all up. I added a couple extra resistors on here on the other side on pins 9 and 10, and then I worked on the power, and I have the negative on this side, the power on this side, and as you can see over here, the last pin says raw. That is where your 5 volts come in if you have a 5 volt one, and then the ground is right next to it, so that's why I put the wires in there. And I also put a ground bus in here. You can see right here, the 4th pin is the ground wire, and I just ran a wire over and soldered it all to all the little holes in there and these 3 pads on the end, so whenever we get to put the LEDs on there, we'll just attach the ground on this side and then the power on this side where the resistors are. The 4 pins on the inside we're not going to be using on these on here, and this is actually a 4, 5, 6, and 7, which is analog inputs that we're not going to be using, so I'm not going to bother with them at all. I'm not going to use any of these analog pins right here right now, but maybe in the future. And then also I marked this side here with a black Sharpie, so we know that that side is the ground side. So here's what it looks like right here. I'll take a picture of it so you can see it a little bit better than this right here. We're just about good to go, and putting all the LEDs in the layout and mounting this on the bottom. I have my board ready to go. I have the sketch downloaded onto it. I have it mounted on the standoffs. Now I can only put 2 standoffs on there because, as you can see, I had to drill out the holes on it, and 3 of the holes on here are too close to the edge to drill out. So only one was on the edge, and I had to drill through one of these other holes close to where the resistor is. It's not going to make a difference there anyway, but that's just to get it off of the surface of the underside of the layout. I have all my LEDs ready. I'm going to use one already made up. I bought this at Amazon. I got a light pole, actually 10 of them, but I tested it out, and I'm going to use it with the 470 ohm resistor on this side here. Now I have my arc welder. I'm using 3 LEDs on there, and they're the same LEDs as these right here. I just have one. I left one clear. I put canyon red or canyon orange on one of them for the glow, and I painted one blue, and it's bright blue. So we'll see what that looks like when it's finished. I showed you in a previous video LEDs similar to these that I picked up at a craft store after Christmas. The original price is about $7.99. I picked them up for about $2. And you get about 30 mini LEDs on there. They're real small LEDs. And this is what I used in this project here. And you could use them in any project. I have these 2x2s that I used for legs. And I just set it off on the side like this, so I could lay the piece right up on top of it so it doesn't hit the bottom right there. Here's the scenery that we're going to be working on. I have the tracks going along on the back side right here, and this side is where the wall is. So I have a pile of ties here. I got some rail. I got some a pallet over here with a barrel on it, and I have my shed here. This is a coal bin, and I have my little guy. I don't have him secured, but I'm going to add some coal in there. I have some barrels over here. Let me see, you can't really see that, but right there, the barrels. And this shed right here is loose. I think this is a white metal building that I put together, and we're going to light this up. We're going to light this up, and we're going to mount this on top of this board right here. I used this as a walkway somewhere on something else, and I had some extra, so I'm just going to mount it on top of it like this. Put a light in here, and then I'm going to have the street light on the one side. So we're going to get that to light up. That's going to be over here. I'm going to put my welder over here someplace, and I'm going to put some a little work area right here also. Well, here's the board mounted on the bottom with all the wires attached now. I got on the left hand side, you can see all the resistors on there. I got I got 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6 I left open, and 9 I left open, 7, 8, and 10 and 11. 5, 6, and 9 is for future use on the analog pins. And so here it is, the bottom. There we go. I just got finished soldering everything, and I got the clamp holding up the piece of scenery there. See, all the ground wires are up on the top on the ground bus that I soldered on there. Here's the scene without the welder in there. I have the welder's lights. Don't have the man in there yet. I have a modern version of a welder, but I have to, this is in 1950, so I have to find a Lincoln welder. Sort of looks like an old propane tank, a horizontal propane tank. It's a rocket. It was a generator. I have it hooked up to the computer, so it's flashing like that. And I have 4 lights coming on in sequence. And let me get a better shot at the weld. Let's come over here, because I have a glow in it also. I have a white light, a blue light, and a red light, or actually an orange light for the glow. And what I did with the lights in the buildings, I painted them yellow, straw yellow, to make them look like a lamp from the 50s. And the street light can get brighter than that, but I put it on a 470 ohm resistor. Workshop right there. That's a white metal. I think at Woodland Scenics. And then the shed is Bar Mills model, the two sheds. That's one of them, and then I have a coal bin over there. That's a Tichy model, and what else? And some barrels and stuff like that. That's the ties, the poly ties that I did myself, and the rails over there I did myself. I took the trees out for right now, just to work on it. And here's what it looks like on the bottom. I have the board with the FTDI breakout board on it. And you can see I have, right next to it, I have the terminals for the power on there. I just don't have it hooked up right now. It'll be hooked up a little bit later. So the next shot will be with everything on there mounted up on the layout. Here's a close-up of the welder. You'll notice that after the arc there is a glow that diminishes, and it's supposed to look red. In fact, I have it as orange. It's called Canyon Orange, but it doesn't look correct. The camera doesn't pick it up correctly. Now here's an overall view of the scene, and I have the lights sequencing on. I have the street light, and then I have the shed light, and then the outside light on the shed, and then I have the work shed light coming on, and then finally the arc welder coming on. On this sketch I don't have anything actuating it. I could put in a IR sensor or a button or anything to activate this. As it is right now, I don't have anything that activates it. I'll be doing that a little bit later after I do the sketch on Arduino Made Easy. In fact, this will be featured in Arduino Made Easy later on this week. Now I'll show you a darker view of it with the street light coming on. Time this out however you want, or you could have all your lights come on. It doesn't matter however you write the sketch. I just did it this way so you could make it look like somebody's walking around turning lights on before the welder comes on. And don't forget, later on this week, we're going to have the Arduino Made Easy. This sketch is going to be featured on there, and we'll be adding on to that sketch to put an IR sensor or a button or whatever we need to do to activate this scene right here. I'm working on another project where I'll be lighting up my buildings and adding interiors to them, one block at a time. I have my city streets set up so I could remove an entire block, so it makes it easier to work on. And that'll be coming up in a future episode. Keep an eye out for that. And we'll see ya.